Busy time for
It is. Well, the last season in full swing right now. We're about halfway through.
you.
So it gets condensed right now. It's very tight.
When they call you writer, producer, director, star, it's obviously a huge cast, but you must take a lot of personal involvement. Is it virtually every step along the way you're involved somewhere?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, I'm involved in, it feels like I am. I get a lot of questions sliding across my desk through the course of the day, so it feels like I'm involved somehow in most of the aspects of the show anyway.
6 seasons now, and you and I have talked in the past, and we talked a lot to your producers when the announcement was out a few months ago that this would be the last season. What's the response been like to the idea of this franchise wrapping up?
I get slapped a lot of places I go.
Good.
I'll just be in the line up at a grocery store. Wham! No, you know, it's kind of the response from the people that makes me feel, it cements my notion that this was the right time. I mean, I've always felt that this was the right time. I questioned myself a million times about it to make sure, and the answer always came back in my head, a resounding yes, that this was the right time. But the response from the public seems to be really cemented in my mind, because it's that perfect combination of sad to see you go, but they understand, and they're looking forward to other things. And that's a difficult tightrope to hit. It's a real small bullseye to hit, and I feel like we hit it. You know, you want to leave just at that point where people don't want you to go, but they can see why you're going, or they understand. I mean, you don't want somebody to hand you your coat, right? I've had that happen at house parties, and you can just tell it's the wrong. This isn't good.
And when you first did the comedy work, was Saskatoon, was it the first stand-up you did?
Yeah, unless you count Tisdale on Variety Night, where I did it in high school a couple times. But the first time I performed as a greasy neck club comedian was in Saskatoon.
And you've talked about that life as a vagabond or a gypsy or a hobo, where you basically just travel the country.
Hobo gypsy bag, I call it. It's all
a hobo gypsy bag.
I just came up with that.
Brent Butt.
Yeah, it's a great nomadic lifestyle. It was a lot of fun. That 15 years prior to Corner Gas.
Well, for a lot of Canadians, though, you were the new breakout guy with Corner Gas, which for a lot of us who've watched you over the years in stand-up, it's sort of funny to see you being called new.
Yeah, it's kind of that age. That happens a lot in show business, right? Where it's like the overnight success, 15 years in the making. It happens a lot. It's a pretty standard story. Man, this guy came out of nowhere. Like it'll be like some new artist on the scene, a new gallery. This guy came out of nowhere. There's 5,000 paintings. It's just, if you don't know somebody, if you weren't following the world of stand-up, really, you wouldn't know a lot.
In Tisdale, there's of course that billboard that still adorns the entrance into Tisdale.
Yes.
Brent Butt. I didn't know there
I
was
like the notion of an entrance to Tisdale.
entrance.
Yeah, it's like a big walled-off complex.
Yeah, and the gates swing open.
Yeah.
It's the home of Brent Butt.
And that's the first thing that greets you.
It is.
Like a haunted house that jumps out.
The Dog Hide River. I didn't know that was the name of the river. So is that how...
It was once the name of the town. Before it was named Tisdale, the town was called Dog Hide because of the Dog Hide River.
Okay.
And then, as so many prairie towns, it was named after some rail baron, right, who was influential in the town's development. But the early name was Dog River. But I didn't consciously name the show, the TV show's town Dog River based on the Dog Hide River. But in hindsight, it was probably subconsciously influenced it. I just had a big yellow legal pad, and I was just writing down a bunch of town names that I thought sounded like, like they could be towns in Saskatchewan. And when I wrote Dog River, it felt right. It seemed like, yeah, that seems like a town. I think because subconsciously, Dog Hide River was.
Well, that's what I wondered. Now, in the early days, did you have creative support, or was it really just you and the extension of your stand-up?
It was never as much an extension of my stand-up as I thought it was going to be. I expected that it would be more. I thought I would draw more from my act, but it's just such a different genre and such a different, you can pull the odd gag. I can only think of one gag off the top of my head. There's probably more. There's probably maybe half a dozen over the 6 seasons, but I can only think of one where I pulled it from my act, one joke. And the rest, because I don't write everything myself, I work with a story department, so they bring their own jokes and story lines and ideas and stuff to it. So at the end of the day, it's just it's such a different genre that I couldn't suck as much of my stand-up into the show as I thought. Therefore, it was way more work than I thought it was going to be.
Brent Butt is in studio. In studio today is right here at the Ruby. We're sitting in a booth, and if you're joining us in streaming video, it's Newstalk 650 or Newstalk980.com, and we are doing our behind-the-scenes tribute to corner guests. Are there things behind the scenes here that the
There's
average...
one behind you right now.
Is there?
Don't turn around.
Oh my God.
You'll mess your pants. You saw what was behind you.
What was behind me, which I did see, was the message board, which has been meticulously created. I mean, that's the message board in every single small town auditorium or coffee shop.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's an air of authenticity to this show that really helped contribute to people embracing it the way they do. It feels legit. I mean, I've spent a lot of time in small town prairie coffee shops. I think a lot of the people employed on the show, a lot of the crew have. So everybody kind of knew what we were talking about from the get-go.
Well, I laugh because just over there's the old rated capacity shall not exceed, and remember in every Saskatchewan place had that thing for years, and it's even the old 60s, 70s style yellow paper.
Yeah, and it's they always had, you could have more people if you had entertainment, right?
Yeah.
It always struck me as odd. You can only have 50 people in here unless you also have a band. Then you can have another 40 people. The logic of it escapes me. When
you shoot on corner gas, you've got obviously, and we had Kevin explain some of this earlier. I didn't ask him enough about the schedule, how you do the scripts, how you do the production.
We don't have anybody named Kevin on our show. I don't know who you were talking to. Some grifter came through. Yeah, I work on the program, sure.
He did have a drifter look about him.
Oh yeah.
Are you doing often, and he said about 4 days per episode, is that?
Yeah, roughly.
So you're shooting 2 and 3 at once?
We do 2 shows over 8 episodes, which generally comes on 4 days a piece, but sometimes it's 5 on one and 3 on another, but it's always because of our schedule. In 8 days, we shoot 2 shows.
Okay. And a fixed schedule back and forth from the soundstage to Dog River rollover?
Not fixed, no. You try and, because it's very expensive and time consuming and logistical nightmare to move from the studio to roll. I mean, all the trailers have to go, all the electric trucks, all the grip equipment, everything has to go. So it's quite a big schlemazel, as you can imagine. So we try and limit the times you have to do that. So we will shoot all the Rollo business for 2 episodes at once, like back to back, and then move into the studio. Shoot all the studio related business for 2 episodes. Then we'll start the next 2 episodes, so we're here in the studio, so we'll shoot all the studio business for those 2 episodes here. So we limit the number of times we have to move.
Was this a big learning
experience? Was that even what
experience?
you were asking?
It was exactly what I was asking, but I was having trouble understanding. How do you learn that when you go from being a comedian who's doing appearances on TV shows to now being the creative mastermind of this? Yeah,
I didn't have to learn that. No, what you do is you say, who's a good producer, a good line producer who knows all that stuff? I'll hire that. That's what you don't try and then they explain to you what they're doing, and you put on, you nod politely, you kind of glaze over a bit, you think about fudge for a couple of minutes, and then you go, yeah, all right, that sounds, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, do that. I'll mull that over. And you go, give me some paperwork on that. And then they go off and do it. But yeah, you just hire, I've always been a big fan of hiring professionals to do, I don't like it when people try to entertain themselves. I'm against that notion. For God's sake, hire a professional. Me or one of my friends will come to your home and entertain you. Or plumbing or whatever it is, electrical work. Hire a pro. And so, we hire a good line producer who knows all the department heads, who knows all the crew, who know how to make TV shows. And then I can just worry about making sure the scripts are funny and watching the shooting. But I mean, it was a steep learning curve for me. To go from just being a nightclub guy to producing a TV show and getting to where I was directing TV episodes of the show. It was a steep learning curve. But when you really, I've always loved television, I'm fascinated by it. I've wanted to work in it since I was a little kid. So, as you know, when you're really interested in something, it's a lot easier to learn stuff. And your brain retains it and picks up little things. Whereas if you're talking about, trigonometry, for example. Was that even a thing?
It was.
It sounds like a word I made up.
It was geotrig in high school.
Geotrig.
Remember that?
I remember walking by a room that had that sign on.